गुड इवनिंग एंड वेलकम टू गणेश शॉट। गणेश शॉट में आप सबका स्वागत है। I do hope you enjoyed the last podcast, which was coming to you on Ganesh Shot through Klaus on Afghanistan. But we'll discuss Afghanistan some other day. We'll get back to Op Sindoor. All of you know that Op Sindoor was a, a operation, a war, which was vastly unlike what wars or conflicts took place earlier. Right? And there's a war or conflict in which the aircraft never crossed the border. It was completely non-contact. It was a new kind of warfare, right? Uh, More importantly, India and Pakistan both are nuclear nations. And it's always said that, the space for war between two nuclear nations is very less. We saw that in 2020 when India and China got into a fist of it, Galwan. And that operation went on for about 4 5 months, with culminating in Op Kailash, right? Or that is off Snow Leopard on the Kailash range. And not a single bullet was fired. That was the lower end of, you know, conflict between two nuclear nations. The higher end was the conflict which was, 99 Op Vijay conflict. That was when both India and Pakistan had actually overtly gone nuclear. They were newly formed nuclear weapon states. Now, the space for war between two nuclear nations is something like that. One end Kargil, the other end Eastern Ladakh. In between, we had the Balakot affair. Now, that be that as it may, war has changed in its character. A lot of computers, a lot of AI, a lot of drones, a lot of missiles, a lot of everything. We've had this Russia-Ukraine conflict, Israel-Gaza conflict, where a lot of things came out new. And this is probably the next generation conflict which we saw for the 4 days, in which Pakistan got completely spanked. Now, it is in this context that General Harimohan suggested to me, "Sir, this is the beginning of a new mode of warfare." I said, "Yes, let's discuss this. Let's discuss how this is a new mode of warfare and how Op Sindoor will define what's going to come ahead." And let's remember, you have to start thinking for the future. You have to structure our forces for the future. And the future will, and how you do it will completely depend on how you see warfare will evolve in the future. It is, and this will be a series. This is just the teeing off of the first thing to put ideas in place. We will discuss more as we go along, right? And with this, I'd request General Hari Mohan. Hari, welcome to Ghana Shot once again. It's a
Thank you, sir.
privilege for me
Thank
to
you, sir.
have you here. And we are going to talk of something new and how India has to, what we have done. Of course, what we have done is unlike what we have done earlier, but what we have to do will also be unlike what we have done now. All yours.
Thank you, sir. You have given a great introduction to the talk, and actually, this is something which has been at the back of my mind for last few months, that I should start looking at the future wars, and all of a sudden, this conflict lands up. And this last 2 weeks, one has seen and analyzed, read a lot of material which is there on this on these 4 days of war or conflict. And every day is a new learning, and I have decided to take this as a research subject. And what I am going to tell you today, or to your audience today, is possibly the beginning of my thought process. There will be larger gaps which needs to be filled up, and like you said, um, possibly with more people talking about it, and I also doing a little more study on it, we'll come back and try and fill in those gaps, and look forward for suggestions from the people who are listening to this podcast. Uh, it has been it's been something. Every day you find something new coming out of it when you look at the 4 days of action that took place and how things could have been done differently. And I'm sure the think tanks, both within and outside the country, are working and thinking about it and learning lessons that come out of it. So I would like to start by saying, after the Second World War per se, and when the Cold War started, the era of colonial conflicts generally got over. And if you can put on that slide which I sent, sir, if you look at in fact, this was there, it was one of the slides which I started using when I was talking on the gray zone warfare. And when you look at the distance as it comes closer, more of civil conflicts with foreign state intervention, like whatever happened in Afghanistan or whatever happened in Iran, whatever happened in Iraq. All these are conflicts where there was a change of regime which was being taken up, and the superpowers got involved into it in some manner or the other. While conventional conflicts, one or two, like the Indo-Pak conflict of 71 or 99, they kept happening at the lower side. But by and large, if we have the next slide, sir, you realize that, as was said by Rupert Smith, no war no longer exists. Only confrontation and conflict exists, and that is something which is encapsulated in these points which I've laid out, as there are blurring lines between, you don't know what is war, what is peace. You don't know when the war is beginning and when it has ended. Yesterday there was a talk on one of the news channels I was on, and they were talking about Sindoor 2.0. And I said the Prime Minister has said Sindoor is on a pause. We went in for an operation called Op Rakshak way back in 1990s. It is still going on. And like you mentioned, sir, Op Snow Leopard incidentally is still going on. We have not
Yep.
yet completed operation. So we don't know when the war starts. We don't know when it ends. These kind of operations are never-ending ones. Some of them are kinetic, some of them are non-kinetic. What we achieved in the Rezangla in 2021 was a brilliant maneuver of non-kinetic operation. We were able to dislocate our northern neighbor without firing a single bullet, and make very tangible gains. So there are multiple examples of non-kinetic outreaches by many countries, and we have been pioneers in one of them. They have been covert and overt operations, and these unknown men, going around with guns all over the world. They are one example of overt or covert operation which gives you far higher dividends than overt military actions. I still feel what we did possibly was due to a lot of pressures, both from within and outside the political spectrum. But I guess it is going to be a continuum when people are going to be hunted down by whatever methods they are. And this system is going to continue. The way they waited and took out Osama bin Laden is the best example for it. They waited for 3 days after they had a fix on him, till the time they decided to go cover overt and take him out. So there will be certain kind of things which will keep happening. There are no permanent allies, there are no permanent adversaries. Yesterday, the Russians wanted to create a IRC once again. I remember about 10 years back, there was a talk of India, Russia, China coming together. There is a scope. Who never know how things change. The balance of power changes. One madman in the other side can change the whole complexion of allies. So there are a lot of space in that. There is no battle space left in the world. You can hit the depth area first and then go on to take the border outpost later. So people can't decide which is the critical battle space in battle tomorrow. They'll be forced to go non-linear all the way across. And this last 4 days are a very great example to say how a conflict can be resolved. When I say ethics, there is no ethics in current warfare. We can go deny many things, accept many things, and there is no morals. Like the way the IW was done by our adversary, he has not stopped at anything. He has worked on all possible methods to try and slander us by means of trying to tell that we hit civilian areas, created collateral damages, etc., etc. State and non-state, everybody is today state. I don't consider anybody as non-state actors. Everybody who's part of an operation which is in hitting at somebody is a non-state, is a state actor. And I believe every civilian who picks up arm is a combatant. So it's very difficult to define. And a guy throwing stones, or guy trying to avoid or trying to create obstacles to any movement, in my word, is a combatant has to be dealt in the same manner. And it was very aptly discovered when Major Gogoi, that incident of putting that guy on top of a jeep, and he took that entire election team out. And these are multiple examples to say that lines are very blurred today. There is no distinction, because what is conflict and what is non-conflict, and that is why I just try to put down some points. Then these are not the finite ones. There can be many, many more to it. These are just some of them which people can think of and possibly understand as to why today it's very difficult to decide when to start and when to end a conflict. Thank you, sir. Uh, I was of the opinion, and I've been and very, in fact, I think I mentioned it in the first podcast of mine with you, that I believe that India and Pakistan were fighting in the gray zone ever since 1971. For the last 5 decades, we are still in the gray zone, and that gray zone keeps getting elevated from one end of the spectrum to the other at periodic times. When you say the Kargil was one area where we went over the brass tacks and trident you mentioned last time in one of your podcasts, as how we went almost into a full-blooded conflict there. So in duration of the last 50 years, there have been at least 10 or 15 incidents when this gray zone has been expanded. And I was, if you say, put the next slide, sir. I
Yeah,
did this. I made this slide when I was examining the. No, no. I think conflict is a escalatory ladder is, I think, known to many people. But what I would like to emphasize is the escalatory ladder as it's applicable to the military terms. Can you have the next one, sir? Yeah. So, if you look at it, there are two places where strategic airstrikes and missile exchanges have been earmarked. And in between the two, there are two things. One is called conventional war, one is called total war, which means that full spectrum of conflict which our adversary was, prophesizing even before we had said anything post Pahalgam. So today's these four areas, when I look at it, right from limited skirmishes till nuclear posturing, they have got totally blurred. Today we don't know as to which portion are we, and is there a gap or is there a red line that can be defined to say, okay, I can go up till here. And what we did on the 10th is another example, and like you mentioned, it is something which needs to be studied. Where is this nuclear red line? We went almost 300 kilometers into Pakistan, almost right to the edge of Pakistan. So, and we went into the area of high-end conventional missiles. So I don't know if that did not bring in the red lines. When will the red lines come? So these four things have become very, very contracted. So limited skirmishes can straight away go into total war, nuclear posturing, and the escalatory ladder can be, suddenly escalated to the right extreme of the spectrum. And that is something which I want to study, and I will request people who are interested in this subject. They need to understand and study as to where and how warfare in the future is going to be fought. And Op Sindoor is a very good pointer to this particular aspects. So if you can have that slide on the gray zone, which is the next slide I have. Yeah. So in this slide I had made when Op Snow Leopard happened. Actually, this I made when Galwan actually happened. And that's why I use the word use of force. Before this, we used to say the gray zone, was lying between the two red dotted lines. When Galwan happened and people died, and incidentally, we have, the highest bravery award being awarded to people for that particular action. But we didn't get into conflict. It was a one night effect, one night event, and everybody got back. And we were back into gray zone. And definitely there was, if not uh, bullets, there were definitely bullets or ammunition. There were definitely use of force, whichever way it is. So I extended the gray zone in this time to use of force. And I thought possibly that is the limit of gray zone. Now, this is something I was talking to. In fact, I covered one of the lectures for the last staff college when I was there. I was talking to them on this. And one of the question was, sir, how do we decide where this use of force comes in? That is a very big question. Whether you are the person initiating that use of force or is the adversary starting it? And when will he start it on this escalatory ladder, which is moving from left to right? And now, if you go to the next slide, sir, in this current scenario, Now I have to push it to the green line. Now the gray zone lies between the red line on the left and the green line on the right. And this is almost as close to limited war as one can think of, which means there is no gap between gray zone and conventional war. And that is very, 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 very disturbing because you will not have time to take political decisions to try and control a situation should it reach the edge of the gray zone. And therefore, the escalatory ladder has to be evaluated very, very, I will say, closely by people who are at the decision making level. And they have to decide when to say yes and when to say stop. Many people are questioning the prime minister and the government as to why we accepted that so called pause in fighting or pause in action. I don't think the government was in a situation to get into a full fledged war at this stage because the weather does not permit, the cropping pattern does not permit. Our northern adversary is still sitting engaged with us both in the east and in the northern areas. Even in the central sector, he has showed his presence. And this is the time when he can possibly keep us fixed there. So there can be multiple things which the government must have decided before accepting the offer of the Pakistanis that we stop. And that is why I said this is something which is going to be a very, very difficult thing for future as to when to decide to say, I have done enough and now I can call for a ceasefire. And will the adversary, on the other hand, accept it at that particular stage? And I think even if somebody coerced the adversary to go and ask for it, I should accept the government's mind to say that yes, this was our aim and we have achieved what we set out to achieve and stop now. So this is something which is very much bothering, and I'm going to be researching this, especially in terms of demonstrative actions. Does not stop you. In fact, I will say the demonstrative actions will extend into conventional war. And when I compare this with what happened in Russia and Ukraine, the Russians thought they will, steamroll the Ukraine in 4 days or 5 days, and it is the fourth year of conflict, and they are still stuck with it. So this is a very difficult call for the government to decide, or person who's at the helm to decide what is the end point for the current operation. And whoever are studying military conflicts needs to be well abreast with the implications and decide when to say stop and when to say no more, and when is this gray zone going to be closed down. As I look at it, this is going to stretch, and I feel it will stretch into the domain of the conventional war. And that is where the problems will start because you'll have conflict and non conflict happening simultaneously. And in that kind of a scenario, it will be very difficult to call. And future has very difficult times for most of us who are historians leading into subject of defense. We have to decide as to say when one should recommend to say enough is enough. Thank you, sir. Uh, I think I will go. No, so I'll come to this thing later, sir.
Yeah,
Uh,
okay, fine.
by and large, when you look at what happened, I would go back to why I said there is a change in the method. So I will go back and you know all this while one was talking about cold start strategy and incident based strategy, etc., etc. I was commanding my unit. You were a formation commander. And that time, possibly the day an incident, let's say, happened, I remember when the Bombay bomb blast happened, I was a commanding officer. And I was coming back home and I saw this on the news and I said, oh my God, tomorrow I think we should start loading our trucks and move because that's what was the policy there. Incident based mobilization is something very, very tricky. You don't know when they will be told to go. And we have lived through that system. In fact, most of us in our plans, in our war games, in our education, in our service career, have worked through that system of incident based. Someone in down the line decided that we'll decide whether the incident is worthwhile or whether you should start reflecting. I think people should know, people who are listening to this podcast should know that war is not a T20 cricket match. Even for a
Mhm.
T20 cricket match, two teams have to reach the stadium. They have to reach the stadium. They have to, put on their kit, and then only they can play the game. And even if the game lasts 3 hours, and for war to happen, you have to reach the forward area. You have to build up. It is a huge effort. People don't realize that today. People are expecting, news media room war. I captured this, I fired five BrahMos, etc., etc. That is not war, and war is a serious subject, and it is very difficult to today, understand, and that is why I felt what was the happening, what all happened from, let's say, 22nd of April till around 31st of April, the 9 days. In those 9 days, as one saw, Pakistan, in its routine methodology following an incident, put together what he calls as, his new concept of war fighting. He puts his CBGs and ICGs in the areas where he feels India will come. So he puts those precautionary deployments in place. He starts moving some element of his offensive formation into some kind of area to try and preempt it. All this we were seeing it because it was being noticed, it was being reported that some movement was happening, especially from Gujranwala, especially from cantonments which are close to the border, Sialkot, Lahore, Rawalpindi. All these cantonments we saw movements, and they were as per expected or as on expected lines. People even reported that Quetta and Peshawar were being wound up and moved to the east, which was very unlikely. And I think I mentioned in one of your podcasts that it is too much to expect them to move in full strength. It could be just some elements moving up. It is as per his doctrine and policy. He feels that he will be surprised and possibly lose ground, and thereafter he doesn't have the wherewithal to take the lost ground back. So that all happened, and all this time we also decided to have some exercises, possibly which are routine exercises, because for those who doesn't know, in the month of May, June, generally our offensive formations undertake what we call as exercise with troops, and it mostly happens in our ranges. So these formations do move into these ranges for routine training exercises, which is an annual event. It is basically to test the capacity and the the condition of the formation concerned. So that was also happening. So there was some degree of tensions, which was possibly overplayed by large amount of media, mostly in social media. And there was a talk of possibly India will not stop. In fact, one of I only mentioned in one of the podcasts when you were mentioning the options available to India, that possibly from the line of march we can go and possibly take something up to the nuclear red line that he has. It was very much on the cards. What did the Navy do in this period? The Navy established, they firstly put out the aircraft carrier was sent out, then the fleet went out. They carried out firing exercises very close to the Kutch area, the Sar Creek area. In fact, they went out twice. The Air Force started, putting its assets, readjusting its assets, and all this was being reported all over the countryside. And there was certain kind of indication that, like what happened post Uri or post Pulwama, in 2 weeks' time, whatever military action India has to take, or the kinetic action India has to take, will happen. And I guess there was too much of pressure also being put on the government to do something, and we all saw all kind of memes coming out in the social media about the prime minister and his non-action on many things. So those possibly were reasons which created a kind of scenario where both sides got fully mobilized to a low level conflict, if I was to use the word. Now I would like to put that slide outside. This is something which I studied after what happened on the 6th of May. And since the CDS has mentioned today, I may like to be a little more open when I say this. Now, whenever air operations commence, the first thing that we supposed to do is to carry out suppression of enemy's air defense. It is called SEAD operations, suppression of enemy air defense operations. And that generally carries on for about 24 hours. Thereafter, they increase the intensity, which is called destruction of enemy air defenses. And that is in select corridors where you plan to send your own aircrafts. And that again goes on for another 24 hours. It is only after that that our aircrafts get into an offensive system of maneuver. And what you see here, and that is why I wanted to show this slide, If you see those aircrafts, the Indian aircrafts, which generally, since it's a Pakistani slide, India has been marked in red. Otherwise, it has supposed to be the other way around. The Indian aircrafts have been shown in two blobs, one towards Rajasthan and one towards Punjab, towards J&K. If you recollect, sir, on the 5th of May, Air Force exercise was announced, and NOTAM was, given out saying that from 6th to 9th May, our
There'll
Air
be
Force
a exercise in, yeah.
exercising in Pokhran and Mahajan,
Mm.
right? Sir? And this is why I feel that we need to study this, because this kind of things happens every year. Every year, our Air Force goes for their annual firing to Pokhran, and a NOTAM is issued. So what did Pakistan do? It put up his entire aircrafts up. You see the kind of assets they have put on up. They have put on the AVACs up. And flying an AVAC continuously in the kind of pattern that he's shown is something he is expecting that whenever a no time comes, something is going to come on me. And possibly there was no SEAD or DAD operations even perceived. We didn't want to hit any military targets. And if you go to the next slide, sir, now you see what happens on the night of 6 7. This is again as per Pakistan. I don't think this kind of a scenario may have existed. Assuming that this is the kind of air picture which was there, he talks about 4 squadrons from India and 2 squadrons from Pakistan in air, 42 versus 84. That is what he's been talking about. And these two aircraft patterns are good 120 to 150 nautical miles apart. And both are flying in their own airspace. And in this kind of an airspace, if Pakistan claims that based on certain inputs that he had, and that he says the play went on for 1 hour, that you see the last bullet on his slide says play extended play time is 1 hour. In this 1 hour, he took a decision, and the decision was assure, kill, and deny own loss. That means he freed the weapons to engage Indian aircrafts flying inside India. And if I was to go back to the escalatory ladder, this goes up beyond low level skirmishes. Good old days, people used to say the balloon goes up when our aircrafts cross the international border. Here, our adversary claims that he started hitting our aircrafts from his own side based on on a presumption that these aircrafts have released weapons. Now, why I say this is required to be studied? Because tomorrow, when we go for our exercises in, let's say, Pokhran, we'll have a similar pattern in the air. And the moment an aircraft releases a weapon to a target which is in the ranges, can that be perceived as a likely target, a likely weapon release onto the other side, and the other side starts firing on us? Which means, where are we as in terms of confidence building measures? Zero. And this is a very major lesson that I see which needs to be exercised. What is the level of confidence that we need to have between the two forces, because we are nuclear forces, and most of these aircrafts are nuclear capable aircrafts. When a person says I am going willing to extend the horizon of conflict to the entire spectrum, who knows, he's going to start with a Pawa kg nuclear bomb, as he mentions. So something which needs to be studied, because this is a very disturbing scenario that I look at it, because this kind of a pattern will be existing in every new routine turning time. Any exercise with troops, which is a joint exercise, will have Air Force flying over the ranges. And if you look at the bottom two blobs, they are generally the area where our ranges exist. We will be carrying out exercises and firing over here. And in the similar manner, if you look at the top two pattern which is shown, they also indicate that the ranges which are there in our northern areas. So when we carry out this kind of a training routine exercises, will it be constituted as war, and will he start releasing weapons and start engaging us? These are questions which we need to understand. And I don't still agree. That's why I am still skeptical whether there were confirmed hits from the other side. But assuming they were, then shouldn't we have retaliated? Shouldn't we have brought down 10 of his aircrafts? Because if we had that kind of superiority in terms of numbers, we do also have long range air to air missiles. Should we still restrict ourselves with saying that we will only go for terror targets and not go for military targets because that's a term of reference which has been laid? Another question which has no answer as far as I'm concerned. And I don't know whether the people who are executing this operation had that freedom with them. That should they be, under attack, because in today's air warfare, the radar indicates whether you have been locked in or locked out. And if the radar indicates that you have been locked in, is he free to engage the person who is locked him in? These are questions which I'm sure in future warfare, and this is a big lesson in my mind, Op Sindoor lays out, and needs to be researched a little more and to decide as to what is the level of response in this kind of a scenario. Will we restrict ourselves? Will we hold ourselves? And you know, the fact that last time also we engaged a target 100 miles into Pakistan. Balakot was about 80 miles into Pakistan. And possibly weapons were released along the line of control because it had 60 kilometers of glide. So it's not that something new has happened. We have capability to carry out these kind of long range engagements. Will the long range engagement from a land vector constitute escalation? These are questions which needs to be analyzed and answered, because the war has this particular operation has taken the war to a new dimension. And if you go to the next slide, the last one, sir, this actually I had two slides on. Yeah, when you look at it, almost all targets were 100, 130, 150 kilometers into Pakistan. Now, people should understand why we were able to do it without any interference. Because what we did on the night of 8th and 9th was CID and DID. We destroyed his air defense. And once you destroy his air defense, he is a guy with no roof on his head. He's a high guy with not an umbrella and he's standing in open rain. You can do whatever bloody hell you want to do. So these are two very good examples that this operation tells us as to what should be our line of uh, operations in future, in terms should a similar situation come to us. Would we still like to hope that he's not going to engage us if we are flying on our own side? Or will an aircraft taking off from one of our forward bays be constituted as a bogey and be engaged by somebody across the border? These are something which is a new dimension to warfare. It was never done even in the Russo-Ukraine war. It was never seen even in the Kosovo conflict or in the Bosnia conflict, where they, of course, were operating in across both sides of borders. So this kind of long-range conflict is the first time it has come, and it has possibly come with the Chinese weapon on a Chinese aircraft, which means that it is something which our neighbor from the north is also going to resort to. So it is a clear and present danger for our armed forces today to analyze and decide whether we want to go this way in future wars. Thank you, sir. I'll leave the slides now.
Yeah,
Uh, uh,
yeah.
I
Tell me.
will. I have tried to put across certain things which, again, these are, like I said, these are just the beginning, sir. I will be adding many things to this as days come along, and maybe month and a half later, I'll be able to amplify many things which I'm going to say. So, first thing which I decided to talk about is a paradigm shift from attrition to paralysis. Let's get on to paralyze him. How do we do that? I believe let's start targeting systems rather than troops. It's high time we knock off his capability so that the people who are going to use that capability are not any use to him. So we need to focus on command nodes, logistics nodes, C4Is. Those kind of systems should be knocked off in the first go. And that is something which, whether it's taken out by air, ground forces, electronic forces, multiple options are there. I'm sure people will be working on it. The loitering ammunitions have given us a new dimension of warfare, both in terms of anti-radar missiles, weapons, and anti-personal weapons, and they are very, very good options. So there is a case to say, when do I put my air force up? I can start with loitering ammunition, do enough CID and DID without putting an aircraft in the air, and then knock him off wherever I want to. So these are options which are available to us. We have to create something, huge decision dilemma amongst enemy's commanders. After all, he should not know what is going to hit him tomorrow. And when he's facing east, he should be hit in the west. And when he's facing west, he should be hit in the east. Dislocating him mentally is something I feel should be the order of the day for future.
But didn't we do
So
that?
we can do so.
No,
We
no,
can
didn't
do.
we do that? No, no, we
We
have
did,
done it.
that's what we. That's why I'm saying this is the first time we did something on 10th.
See,
What
the
we did on
point
9th
is,
and 10th is a precursor for
yeah,
it.
yeah. In fact, if you see, the prime minister is now on stage saying, I was hoping to do something tomorrow morning. Before that itself, before I started praying and then started doing something, he came and hit me. So the decision dilemma was already created.
So that's all we did on 9th and 10th, sir. That's why I
Yeah.
put it as the start point of future war, and that's something we should do in the beginning next time onwards.
Yeah. So that's the important thing, that you need to start with a decision dilemma, right? And that's a big learning which we have to go from here. That look, you can't go with a fixed aim into war. I mean, let's not say the tactical objective.
So, so we are going against what we had been prophesizing that we should have an aim. Now we
No,
should have
no.
multiple aims.
We need
We
to
should.
have an aim. You need to have an aim. I will say the objectives with which you can achieve that aim have to be multiple.
Dynamics. I would put it there should be dynamics.
They have to be dynamic. You should have the capability of achieving your aim through multiple channels.
Multiple
But
channels. So the next thing is I feel we should start investing in technology over manpower. It's something which is happening, and I guess we need to emphasize more on it. Artificial intelligence needs to come into our decision making process. It should be, the drones have done a wonderful job, both counter drones and drones, and our drones have done a tremendous job, and we need to build on it and try and find new avenues where these drones can be employed. Maybe something better, much more capable drones, more endurance, more battle-worthy drones. I feel our training needs to be shifted from towards more data-centric training. People should be able to handle a large amount of data because that is what the future. The decision making is going to be very, very dynamic. And if you don't learn from Operation Sindoor, then we'll go back to starting from A, B, C, D, E. Whereas I believe it could be A, E, D, B, C, whichever way the five letters are negotiated. And the terminal guided weapons is something we should start emphasizing or investing into it. What we achieved in, let's say, Noor Khan Air Base or Chaklala Air Base or um, Sargoda Air Base, that was what has actually put him on his knees. And that
yeah,
is
look,
some.
I have a different view on this. Let me put it up. In a conflict of this nature where you're largely demonstrative, you're not gone in for destruction of an air base, it's good to have precision hitting, okay, to convey points. But when you have to cause real damage beyond a point, you need area weapons, and you might have to do with less precision. And we are gunners, we
So,
know that.
so I
You
say,
need
sir,
a mix. You need a mix. You need a
why not have, rather than having one precision weapon, let's have a mix of precision and area weapons
Yeah,
with
I
a
think so.
particular area. Saturate the
I
area.
will put it this way. It's not only precision, we can have precision, semi-precision, and dumb. A combination of all three, which will give you cost-effective results. Is something which is the way forward, and we need to think of it. We need to seriously think of it.
And after what happened on 6, 7 night, the two slides which I showed, we need to find ways to, deny enemy detection systems. His int gathering networks, and in my mind, first thing we should have knocked off on that night should have been his AVAX, whichever way possible. And that was possibly the only thing that possibly gave him that kind of an air picture, and that can't be allowed to fly in the air if you are trying to carry out an operation of this nature. Stealth and speed is something which is ongoing, sir. I don't know. There is a lobby which says we should go
Look,
for fifth generation fighters.
again, Hari. I'd like to point out one thing to all our viewers. We should have knocked down his AVAX. We could have probably even gone and knocked off some of his fighter aircraft before the whole story.
I said that
But
in the
on the
beginning itself.
yeah,
I
no,
said
but
that.
in the first night, I think there were political compulsions of not engaging Pakistan. You know, I mean, I think we carried out. I mean, let me come in. I mean, I think everyone needs to understand this also. They on the first night of this operation, it was a very complicated operation politically. You had to attack 9 targets, which were terror-related targets. Your political objective was related to terror targets, not to engage Pakistan army. So, on one hand, you were offensive against these terror targets. On the other hand, you were defensive. The ones who went in for attacking these 9 targets had to be covered against Pakistan army, who were very clear that they were going to hit us. Okay, and they were look. So their preemption was to hit us. So I think it was a very difficult operation which we did because there were political repercussions of this whole story. So to that extent, I think what our chaps did was great.
No, that
But I
that goes without saying. That goes without saying, sir. What I'm trying to say again, the moment if he has targeted us, and I believe the CD has also mentioned that we learned from what happened on the 6th, 7th night. I believe that if we had tremendous superiority in the air in terms of numbers and capabilities, and if we were targeted, that kind of decision making should have been there, flexibility of the people to possibly take them down also. I don't know whether it was there or not because in the first press brief which we released on 7th morning, we very categorically said we have not targeted any military
any Pakistan,
installation.
yeah, yeah, very
So
clear.
that if you put that kind of a term of reference on people, then there will be certain degree of I will say losses if I was to use the word. I don't want to use the word, but we
No,
should
no,
be
but you
prepared
heard,
and
yeah, 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 yeah. I
that
think
we
so.
should be prepared
I
as
think,
a
yeah.
nation. We should not question those losses because
I
the
don't
people
think
who
anyone
went
is
in.
questioning. Look, I don't think anyone is questioning these losses. The fact is that in a war, when you go in, you should expect losses. You can't say I went in with war, I'll come out with 100% aircraft. It's not possible. And no, no, I'll hit all his air bases, but I will not suffer losses. You must
That's why
expect
that's
losses.
why I say we are playing T20 games.
We are,
We believe in only hitting sixes. We don't believe in
yeah,
getting out.
yeah.
That is the
You have
problem.
to get hit. It's part of the game. Look, it's a two-way game. And I mean, let me spend a minute because a lot of people are asking about the CDS command, table, all that. If you actually analyze what he said, I mean, this is to everyone. What did he say? He says, yeah, first time there was something we learned, and the next time all of them were up. What did he say? He's not said we lost aircraft. Did he say at any stage that we lost aircraft? He's not. He's not said that. He said we learned, and next day all of us were up. I mean, isn't it so? He's really not said that we lost aircraft. And when he is very key, they said, "Did you lose 6 aircraft?" They said, "Absolutely incorrect." I don't think, uh, yeah, the global times and Pakistani guys will go ballistic on it. But the fact is, यार तुमने उसका गोरखान एयरबेस को फाड़ के रख दिया, ओ मुरीद को तो फाड़ के रख दिया, and all this. So it's okay. That's my part of the
So
game. I don't.
16 Reaper stroke Sea Guardian aircrafts of the Americans have been brought down by Houthis in
Houthis.
Yemen. Yes.
Uh,
So
yeah.
even nations like America with high-end technological weapons also
Yeah.
lose. So that is the point. Is again, like I said,
Um,
either we create expectations which are on the lower side, or we decide that okay, come what may, I will take decisions, be flexible. There is no stopping that you should have completed this operation at 1 o'clock and started hitting Pakistan at 2 o'clock, saying that we have been attacked. So these are areas where I feel in future,
no.
and I'm
Well,
sure I'm sure these
I'm
are lessons
sure.
which the
Yeah,
CDS
I'm
was
sure.
mentioning.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, and
So
I also think, see, the kind of warfare which has happened, and realistically, we are two nuclear neighbors. and the space between us is only decreasing, right? Conflict is decreasing. So, my view is, should we use the Air Force next time at all? Do you have to use the Air Force next time at all? In
We
fact,
didn't,
le-
sir. We didn't use the air force in our northern. When
yeah,
we went to the north, we didn't use the air force at
we
all.
didn't use the Air Force at all.
We
So
didn't use a
we,
weapon at
we
all. But
we didn't use a weapon at all, and yet you bent the hand of twisted the hand of
and
China,
so,
right? And there's no doubt about it. You twisted his
mhm.
tail very hard. In this case, you imposed certain restrictions on yourself. You overcame, and after that, you hit him the way he had to be dealt with. So I don't think there's much more to that on this thing. Nature of warfare will change. But the serious thing is today is what is emerging is, like you rightly said, today is a war of technology. High tech will come in. Low tech won't be ruled out. You see, it's not that high tech comes in and low tech gets ruled out. After all, that's what we only have proven, that low tech worked. Low tech, right? Low tech used in an intelligent manner works still, like your AD guns, right? So I don't think we can really rule out that high tech only will matter. I think both will matter, the way I look at it. Will aircraft only be the rule the roost? Might not. You might just go in for a missile war, right? But definitely the role, the character of war has changed, where information, disinformation, deception, uh, all these have gained larger salience. Missiles have gained larger salience. That's what I thought I'll put across. Yeah, yes.
Sir, I was coming to that only. I said there's a debate going on whether we should go for a fifth gen aircraft because our friend is
You don't
getting
need.
20 of them. In my mind, I don't think we need it. And the technology can always be overwhelmed by numbers. So
Yeah,
when you have 10 aircrafts against one, the 10 will definitely win, even if the one is a technologically superior aircraft. And we have definitely got the advantage of numbers. So basically, for those viewers, there are a lot of chatter happening in social media that why are
yeah.
we not
Even here,
buying
people
Su-57, why are we not buying F-35 and all
you
that.
don't need.
It's basically for those people to say that technology always doesn't work, but that does not mean that we should not look at technology also. It is a
Yeah,
fair
we
mix
should.
of both. We
Mm.
should upgrade ourselves, but we should at the same time not get turned out by this other guy having technology. And the best example I can say is what happened in Razangla in 2022, when our adversary had all the technology, we didn't have anything. Our T-72s and T-90s went to areas where heavy tanks cannot go. Our
Mm.
adversary was using light tanks because he thought the heavy tanks will not go there. We went there. We took our BMPs there, which were never expected to work at that altitude and those temperatures. So there are certain things which, when pushed, we can get to. And my point, larger point, which I was trying to say, is it has to be a mix. And people on the ground tomorrow, as I look at it, since I again said the gray zone is going to be something which I cannot enunciate as to where the gray zone ends and where limited war starts. And possibly the limited war will tomorrow be part of the gray zone. So
Yeah,
you don't need. So at that time, people can't start the decision that I will start dumping ammunition. I'll start building up. I'll need a pause in things. And those kind of things have to be relooked at it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree with you, and I also
Also,
feel that the Ukraine war uh, has given us a lot of lessons. It has given a lot of lessons which we shouldn't adopt also, because that
absolutely.
war was between two non-nuclear nations, right? And you can keep fighting with each other when you're non-nuclear. But the moment you're nuclear, the stakes are higher and you can't have long wars, period. And you can't
So
have extended wars. Our wars are going to be of this nature: 42, 76, 88 hours, 2 hours, 4 days, 1 week, and end of story.
So my next point is that only, sir, that both of us have been in our
Yeah.
turn of duty. We have been involved in making degradation plans at theater level, etc., and etc. And every time I used to, make that joint degradation plan, vet it. In fact, I was vetting it in Northern Command when we were looking at the theater level. And the first question I used to ask myself is, Will the BrahMos be available for me on D-Day? Or will somebody hold my hand and say it will escalate? The escalatory ladder will go up. And what this particular operation has done is it's shown us that despite going 400 kilometers into 300 kilometers into Pakistan, hitting his, heartland, pulverizing him all over, the escalatory ladder didn't go up. In
Yeah,
fact,
but
if
then
somebody was saying that possibly he was not in a position to climb that ladder because the steps were missing, he could not climb those
yeah, he
ladders.
didn't have a
So I,
capability. He didn't have a
so I,
capability to
so
escalate.
the point which I'm trying to bring out is that these are areas where a lot of study needs to be put in to say what is the degree up to which limited wars can be stretched, and where is the nuclear red line? Because Kargil was one area where we said we'll not use air force because if we use air force, it will be drawing his nuclear red line. We said we'll not cross the LOC, because the moment you cross the LOC, the nuclear red line will come. And even in
Look,
many
no,
of our service carriers, we saw that we said we'll not go beyond 30 kilometers, 40 kilometers. So there were so many
but
people with arbitrary. Uh,
but that was the understanding of that day.
exactly. So
The
this
understanding of that
particular
day.
so this
See,
war
we
gives us.
we have we see the what I want everyone to understand is this. In 1909, I was there, right? We were there about to go across the LOC when our chaps in Kargil did a better job and didn't allow us to go. I always have a gripe with people who did the Kargil operation that they did it so well they didn't allow me to go across to Pakistan. Right? Okay, but that be that as it may, look, at that point of time, both were nuclear nations, and you went into a 14-day, 15-day war, 20-day war. It started. It's almost a month long. A lot of firing, everything. Okay, you didn't touch the nuclear button. No one spoke of nuclear those days. Everyone did what we had to do. But you respected the LOC that day. Okay, come the Uri strikes, you cross the LOC. Come Abbottabad, come Balakot, you cross the IB.
IB.
You push the whole story. Now you push this. Now you actually created a lot of space. Actually, tomorrow, this is what I'm going to speak. Tomorrow, my morning, my talk to everyone is this. What is the reaction from Pakistan?
So, so this is something which I'm going to study. In fact, something
We must
which
have to study.
we
Yeah.
have to decide and say when and how much. These are certain things which possibly needs to be war gamed. I'm sure at
Mm.
formation levels and decided as to where we are. We have to. We have seen. And I feel it's going to be the biggest lesson is war is going to be very short. What the way the world order came on, whatever the government says, it was not, it was very evident that people were talking, and when people talk, they talk with some degree of I won't call it pressure, but then they generally convey the point of
No,
view.
no, there's no doubt.
so,
Look, let's
so
be very clear. If someone thinks that USA didn't come up, someone thinks that Russia didn't come up, China wouldn't have come up. China couldn't have come up. China had
don't
its
have
own
come up.
issues, right? But if you think Russia didn't come up, if you think the Saudis didn't weigh in on this, no, a whole lot of things would have happened behind the scenes,
so
and right, that's okay. That's part of life. You have to deal with these situations.
so what I was trying to say, sir, is that we'll have a very short window, four
Yeah, yeah.
days, 5 days, 6 days. And no, people keep saying why we didn't continue. We could have,
No, no,
balkanized
that is stupid.
Pakistan and all. That is all nonsense because that requires, even Russia has not been able to capture Luhansk and Donetsk in
Mm.
4 years. So long-term wars is not something which is advisable. We need to understand what we want to do, and I guess whatever was targeted by the government, they have by and large achieved, and they have kept the options open. And that's what
Yeah,
I was
I think so.
mentioning
Yeah.
in the news channel yesterday, that if tomorrow Tala Saeed gets up and makes a statement, nothing stops you from revisiting Burit K and Bahawalpur once again.
Yeah, you're redoing
Yeah,
it. Yeah, why not?
you do it
That's
again.
one part of the
So
story. And the second part of the story is Op Sindoor is just not about military dimension. There's a non-military
non
dimension which is going on,
non-military dimension. And
right?
the
You're not,
last thing, the,
yeah, yeah,
the
please.
last thing I want to add, sir, because I'll have to leave.
Yeah,
I feel there is a lot of need, and I'm sure you are better educated on this than me. There is a lot of need. We are at the moment working in independent silos. We have to put our act together in terms of technical upgrades. Nobody is going to provide a nuclear nation with high-end technology because everybody feels that this high-end technology will tomorrow enable him to become more stronger than himself. Now that we have reached the fourth largest economy in the world, we should start to decide to learn to live by ourselves. And this is to those portion of audiences who are listening to it who are still contemplating why we are not going for American aircraft or French aircraft or engine from so and so.
you don't
It's high
need.
time. It's high time we become China of 1990s. We start making our own, and here we have to bring all our resources, whether it's academia, whether it's DRDO, whether it's private industries, and funds. That is something which needs to be plowed in, and we should look to create a defense forces which is self-enabled. Atmanirbharta is just the start. We need to be top of the line as far as this is concerned. And I think Op Sindoor has given us enough things to start thinking on, where we have to start putting our hands together and stop working in silos. And I'm sure some people are listening to it who may be in the system to try and put things together, and it goes into the system and say yes, we all have to work with our hands together. So, sir, like I said, this is just the one last point I would like to mention was regarding the info warfare. I think I've been saying it from the day one. We were lacking and extremely lacking in it, and we possibly caught on to it only towards the tail end of these last 4 days. And possibly what could have been done over the first 2 days is something which is biting us even today. So there
Yeah,
needs to be an organization, well-oiled organization. It is to be not just a defense organization. It has to be a civil military joint organization, which should have a character in itself, and it should have very clear tenets of what there needs to be achieved. It should be well trained, and we should have people, professionals, both from the armed forces and civil, who should be entrusted with this task of passing information as war. And we should be able to create a perception not only on our population but across the world. See, what we are trying to do, sending these delegations to all around the world, could have been achieved by some very very strong IW statements coming out just prior to the launch and post launch. And somehow, possibly, we failed there, and that is somewhere where Pakistan has been able to influence a larger body. So today, Reuters or Washington Post is writing something. It is basically because we did not give him that kind of information which should have gone. And I guess there's a lot of things to be done there. We need to also kill disinformation. We need to be very, very volatile at it. It can't be done by General Shankar doing a channel in the YouTube, or somebody doing something. We have been doing it. I'm seeing most of the YouTubers are doing it, but it has to be done at national level. It has to be done by embedded journalists, and we need to start embedding people into these international news bodies, like Pakistan has very cleverly done, and that is something I'm sure people should start looking into it. So, like I said, large amount of doctrinal changes will happen in the coming months and years. I'm sure think tanks will start working, and maybe if one is fortunate enough to be, asked to contribute, I'm sure we'll all be,
yeah, yeah. We'll get our
whatever
time.
way we
Don't worry.
are, we'll contribute to it.
Yeah,
But
otherwise we contribute by our talks here.
that's
This will
it.
get picked up. Don't worry.
But in the larger sense, all of us, I'm sure, people out of uniform, people who are
Mm.
looking at this system this event as a point in our national landmarks, we need to start understanding what all could have been done, what all could not have been done, and how things can be done better, and start doing a little more focused research and understand how these 4 days have opened out. And because they have given us huge lessons, and every day you look at every action that we did, everything comes out with numerous lessons that can be put down. I can say bunches and bunches of research can be done on these 4 days, and I'm sure people will be doing it. Like I said, sir, like this is just the first talk which I thought we must put
Yeah,
across, because people should understand that. what our forces have achieved without having theatre commands in place. We have been able to do a joint operation across three army commands, two air force commands, all across the Western Front, both in terms of hitting terror and Pakistani military infrastructure in a very, very coordinated manner. At the same time, defeated all his capabilities in terms of him hitting us. We have knocked down all his ballistic missiles, all his drones. He's not been able to achieve any major damage inside India. It's a creditable 4 days of operation that needs to be, celebrated, if I was to use the word. And at the same time, we should also try and see where the loopholes are and try and find answers to it. So that's all I could say. So if there are questions, I'm willing to take.
No, thanks a lot. If you have to leave. I'll take on
No,
the
I have
questions.
10 minutes. Sir. I have 10 minutes.
Okay, fine. Right. Thanks a lot. I will have 10 minutes. I'll this thing, Dizzy Drive, thanks for becoming a YouTube member. Govind, thanks for becoming a YouTube member. Narendra Rahane, thanks a lot for becoming a YouTube member. I'll take some questions. I'll take a few questions so that, we need public analysis of our strengths and opportunities, reserve weaknesses and threats behind closed doors.
Absolutely. I am. I don't. But what kind of public analysis is something that needs to be quantified because we are a democracy, and certain things need not be made public. But strength and opportunities, people should start analyzing and putting it out, whether in terms of papers, whether in terms of speech, public discourse in debates. There are so many methods to do it, and people can keep doing it at various levels and put it out. I'm sure people will be interested with it.
Right. General Sir, you mentioned that Pakistan didn't have the capability to escalate even after he hit their nuclear sites.
I never
If
said
it's
that,
so
sir.
now, then at the no no, then at that time of Kargil war, they wouldn't have had the yeah. Let me put it this way. Yeah, you want to answer it? Go ahead.
I never said we hit their nuclear sites, and it's something
No,
none
no,
of us
we
should
didn't
say.
hit the nuclear sites, and right, but they didn't have the capability to escalate to
They
that
didn't have the
level after we
capability.
hit their after
That
they hit their
became very
yeah
clear. That became very
on
clear.
tenth
Then
morning.
I'm sure Kargil was too early. And like General Shankar says, 30 years back, we were also learning the ropes. And possibly we were not so capable as we are. Last 30 years, we have grown humongously as an armed force. Last 25 years, we have become a much stronger armed force today.
Yeah, General Sirs, how do you rate as military officers the wartime coverage of our TV news channels, Hindi and English channels, particularly from your point of view? How do you rate it? Satisfied or not?
Like I said, some of our news channels, and I think I said that in open TV, and it was not liked by some when I mentioned it on open media. But I mentioned it very clearly that some of our news channels were, conducting op Sindoor like an election analysis or a T20 match, and they were trying to find ways and means to, increase TRPs, and that is something which is very bad. There were some channels, and I'm very happy that some YouTube channels are fantastic. They were able to, put the narrative out in a much more balanced manner. But organized media, unfortunately, especially the regional and the Hindi channels, to a large extent, and some channels, I will not name them because there are issues. But then we all know what we are talking about. There were people who
Yeah,
went overboard, and I guess some of our uniformed retired officers also uh, went overboard alongside, and that needs to be avoided.
yeah. That's the thing that, I thought many YouTube channels did a fairly good job. Though I didn't have the time to watch any YouTube channels, to be very honest. I also
No,
didn't
I'm
have
watching them
that
now,
time.
sir. No, I'm watching them because I'm researching it, so I'm watching all of them, and some of them have done a wonderful job.
Okay, right. Uh, okay. I mean, I do hope you read your gunner shot in that. Yeah. Does the US China think that does USA China think that Pakistan can't keep us in check or have enlivened Bangladesh?
Bangladesh, as far as US is concerned, they have different interests, and I believe. The US was more interested in, and I guess a lot of pressure must have come on us to possibly give them a toehold because they are suddenly finding China to be a major threat in the future. So they are looking for avenues where they can, put their toehold. And I don't think India ever. We must have done it in the '60s, I believe. I believe we did have some listening stations in the '60s in India, but after that, I guess we don't have any kind. We have been neutral, non-aligned, and I guess I don't think we will give US a toehold inside India, and that is possibly the reason they have gone to Bangladesh. Pakistan, I don't think the US is investing anything more in Pakistan. I don't know. Some people say that the nuclear assets are also um, the American assets which have been kept there. You never know what that could be. Because personally, I don't think Pakistan has the capability to make nuclear weapons in the first place. So I don't discount that fact. But I don't think US is any more interested in Pakistan because it's too far for them from China, and their interest in Afghanistan is over, and they feel the Israel and the other agencies can take care of Iran. So Bangladesh is a different ball game, and we need to look at it differently.
Yeah, Arunachal is asking a lot of intelligence questions. So, are we not forced to focus on economic development based on military industrial complex development to begin with?
Bilkul, bilkul. I tell you, if you develop military capability, your economy will grow. Let me tell you, the biggest market in the world is defense weapons. China has made huge money selling weapons. America has made huge money selling weapons. And if India comes into the market, we can take them both out because we can bring it to market in much cheaper and much better ones. So let's not mix the two together. I guess, and I believe, in fact, I think I was telling General Shankar long time back when I was both of us were involved in one of our procurement that we should amortize our research and development through somebody else's money. Why should we waste our money onto it?
Warm
And we
money
should
on
be
it.
able to make money out of whatever we make for ourselves.
You see, one of the problems today USA and China are going to face is the success of Indian weapon systems in this battle. And a lot of people have already written on it. As a
Even
result
Russia,
of which, a lot of
even Russia.
Russia, a lot of people have will come to us and say, please give your weapons. The day we start making our own weapons, our research also will improve. And that will give a new force coming here. And Pakistan actually becomes irrelevant after that. It will become irrelevant. It's a matter of time. We just have to be patient about it and not go ballistic about what these 4 days. You have to look at the long term. So there is a lot of scope for India. We have to play the long game well. That's what I keep saying. We have to play the long game well. I said this before Op Sindoor started. If you see my videos before Op Sindoor, I said play the long game well. Go into this Op Sindoor militarily before and have a plan. If you don't have a plan and exit plan, we will fail. Luckily, we did go in with a plan. We had an exit plan and we came out. The only thing where we faltered is our information. We faltered big time on that.
IW, sir.
IWI information. Yeah, Raiku, you have been saying the good part is that we are able to understand the tactical mistake. You put out everything about what General Chauhan has said. Remedy it and implement it after 2 days and flew all our jets targeting long range, as I said.
No, I, I,
Look, let me
I, I feel,
be. Yeah, go ahead.
sir, I think I mentioned it. You do 1 day of SIAD and thereafter you put your jets up. Pakistan cannot put any aircraft in the air. And that
See,
decision
yeah,
possibly government took that we will not target their military systems. And once he fingered you, you knocked him out. So the question
well,
was,
that's
you
it.
should understand. That's all. You should understand that there is certain things which will have certain costs. So if you don't do certain amount of damage to his capabilities, you should have some. You'll end up with doing some mistakes. That's what General Chauhan was trying to make out. And once
Yeah,
we remedied it on the 8th and 9th, and thereafter on 10th, we knocked him out.
you knocked them off. End of story. है. बात खत्म. After that, he didn't have any capability left.
फजर कर रहा
Yeah.
था सर. He was swimming after
The
फजर at 2:30 in the morning.
ambiguity keeps the Paki clowns guessing that's part of the game. It's my job to hit the target, not to count the body bags, is a quote that won't be forgotten in a long time. I agree with you completely.
Okay. Okay.
Right? Uh, yeah, the thoughts of General Iyer on the first night of 6th, 7th are matching with the Rusi article you discussed a few days ago. So this is the globally agreed view of most military experts worldwide. I agree with you completely. Look, any sane person will know the first night we did this. The way I look at it, we did this operation with our hands tied behind our back. Like we did, and we go in, most of our operations which we do in counterinsurgency is one hand tied behind your back because you're not hands free. You're not weapons free. You can't go with your artillery. You can't go with anything the same thing happened here. You tied the we tied the Indian Air Force not to carry out any counter strikes. Objective first night was terrorist targets. We took them out. If you had to lose something in it, so be it. Yeah, yeah. I see a future war where many nuclear tipped guided missiles being parked in outer space like satellites, waiting for a command from a crazy power hungry leader to give and go the order. Well, this is a
That is
extreme
mad.
view.
That is called
Uh,
mad.
uh,
Mutually assured destruction. And I think Ronald Reagan mentioned in 1980s. So
yeah,
I guess if somebody does
Star
that,
Wars.
then God help us. We will all have to go to other world, I guess.
Look, let me tell you. My personal view. Give you my personal view. I don't think either China or USA has the capability to put it up that way. And the reason is this. The reason is this, it costs money. It costs a lot of money.
It has to be
Okay.
maintained also there.
And has to be maintained. Okay. It's not feasible. Why go that far? Yeah? We put up, 10 years back, we put a lot of ammunition up in the eventuality that we'll fight a war. We couldn't get that ammunition back. And we had to expend it slowly over a period of 10 years. It cost us a lot of money. And right, so it's not so easy. Yeah.
I, I must like to mention that as we speak, there must be at least 40 submarines, in the various portion of the oceans loaded with
Uh,
nuclear weapons, and they don't have to go to space for it. If you want
for it.
to kill ourselves, there are enough within our
Mm,
own
yeah.
territory that can take care of
Yeah,
us.
don't worry. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, generals. Very technical presentation. Jai Hind. Yeah. Okay. Here, Raiko is very active today. Operation Sindoor was execution of Plan B. Wondering what Plan A was. Who told you it's Plan B? I don't think so.
He's possibly getting carried away with what the defense minister mentioned on the
Yeah.
aircraft carrier today.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
is
That's
that
okay.
was plan A,
We
I
should be
guess.
offensive rather than defensive always. No, we are not
Totally agree
defensive.
with you. Totally agree.
No, but while I agree with
Offensive
the thing that
defense.
we should be
Offensive defense.
offensive, yeah. Why is PM Modi not replying directly to Trump allegations that he's behind ceasefire and use trade as a tool for the same? Need not. Your view.
So, firstly, like I mentioned, and I think let's be very clear, there would have been pressure, and
Mm.
as long as you are not the superpower in the world, you will have to face pressure. You may be Modi, you may be Indira Gandhi, or you may be anyone. You
Yeah.
are, surviving in a global world. You are interlocked with the global economy, and a lot of people have invested money in you. So, if you decide to become a rogue nation, people will come and try and control you. So, to expect that the US has not put pressure is also not correct. Whether we accepted that pressure, no, these are things which I guess is better not said. The game is very clear. When a war has to be stopped, it's the operations branch of two countries which come and talk, and that is how it is supposed to be. So if the
Mm.
DGMO of one country come and says I want to stop war, and if the other guy says I've done enough, that's how war stops.
Mm.
Third country doesn't come in there.
Yeah. When you have an enemy who's a pathological liar, we should have kept quiet on our loss. Now you handicap social media warriors of India. I don't think so. He's talking about that Anil Chauhan's thing, your view.
No, no. I guess he's not even conveyed anything. But the point, like I said, is you should be ready. Like I said, even the Americans have lost 16 Reapers in against Houthis. Houthi is
Mm.
not even a nation; they are terrorists put together. So let's not get carried away by these things.
Yeah, we shouldn't, we shouldn't
I believe
react.
they're knocked down two F-16s also, sir.
Yeah.
So that is a news to
Mhm.
me.
Anjali Martins. Will not China learn from this skirmish and rearm Kangalistan? That puts constant pressure on us. Any permanent solution?
See, China is a what I call as Shylock. कुछ फ्री में नहीं देता किसी को. And if he is giving something to Pakistan, he is possibly buying land in Balochistan in lieu. So if Pakistan wants to sell half of its country to China, it can be its own guest. There is no social worker in this world. Everybody is doing something for money, and let us not get keep too much to China. Yes, I've been mentioning it. China has used this particular window to test its weapons in combat, and that
Mhm.
possibly is to try and make more business out of this weapon. This is something which the Americans have started in Ukraine. They have started testing their weapons against Russia and trying to sell to other countries afterwards, the way they are trying to sell the F-35 to us. So that notwithstanding, I don't think they are going to arm Pakistan for free.
उनके
Even
पास
the
पैसा नहीं है
J-10s,
यार.
even the J-10s they have given is against loan. बड़ा clear
Mm.
दिया हुआ है that money will be withdrawn in equal installments. So it will come out back to them.
Yeah. If you lose, there's a comment, it's a nice comment. If you lose wickets, set a run total. What matters is the other team can't chase it down. I think so. That's what
Totally.
happened in Pakistan.
I accept
Pakistan
that
का
point.
run rate out हो गया था. Yeah. Are deterrent actions more gray zone in nature or closer to conventional war? They
Totally gray
both
zone. Totally no. Conventional war will start when the gray zone generally ends. So deterrent
finishes.
finishes and then gray zone.
Yeah.
But the point which I was trying to bring out is I don't know till which the deterrent is going to stretch. So since the gray zone is expanding, I don't know how much of deterrence that needs to be put.
Moot point is we need to address two root causes of our pain: radicalism and Pak army. Sure, we can hit Pak army. They will always continue. How to deal with cross-border radicals? Shrutik will talk of this separately because this is not part of today's topic. But I understand. Yeah. Okay. What I felt if you have short of time, you can leave,
Another three
Hari.
minutes, I'll leave.
Okay.
Three
What
more
I
minutes.
felt is we are lagging behind a narrative war on national and global media platforms in
Totally.
projecting our upper hand. Your opinion, please. I agree with you
I think I said
completely.
that. Totally.
Yeah. Mm, uh, India had a successful anti-satellite missile test a few years ago. How important will this technology be in the near future? Yeah, look, that's
It
all a
is.
deterrent at best. That's about all. Taking out a satellite in space is not a joke.
No, it
You
will not
have
be
to have
allowed.
one. No, whether it is allowed or not, it's not a joke. Okay, you will create a debris which will kill the whole lot of ecosystem. So no one's going to do that. You can't. It's all
And
thinking.
we are a sane
Okay.
nation, sir. I don't think we'll resort to
Yeah,
that.
we don't think. I don't think we'll get involved with that kind of a thing. Okay. Yeah, we've generally finished most of the questions. Uh, we must ask this question. According to Bharat Karnad, we need a megaton tested thermonuclear. Yeah, Bharat Karnad is a fossil,
Bharat
okay?
Karnad has been speaking about this for the last 20 years.
20 years. The more you ignore him, the better off you will be.
But
Okay.
you don't need a megaton to destroy Pakistan. Let's be very clear.
Okay. Why our mainstream media don't do programs and analysis like you do in YouTube? What can be done to correct this?
I think I mentioned it. I mentioned it.
Look, let me be
Somebody has
very
to take
honest
us
with
up.
all of you. Let me be very honest with all of you. I started doing YouTube only because I was not happy with the mainstream media. And I was not prepared to go to the mainstream media because there it's only a shouting match. Okay. Yeah. One of my colleagues from Pakistan was bragging for downing jet. I told him our pilots are safe and I'm happy to replace the jet. How about you? He ran. Good one. Okay. He can't. Okay. He can't replace anything. Yeah. Are we still a developing nation, albeit to the demographic advantage for a few decades? Do you see as a country, India, doing everything to thread the needle in the coming turbulent times? Yes, we are a
Even
developing
China
nation.
is a develop, Even China is
Yeah,
a developing nation, so we are still way to go.
yeah,
We'll still be developing nation till 50% of our population goes above the poverty line. So it's a lot of area to go, and it's just not the military power that will make you a developed nation. You have to grow economically. You have to be, you'll be a developed nation only when their quality of living becomes on a higher state. The
yeah.
multiple things to the
There are
GDP
many
which
things.
needs to
Yeah.
be many things.
Yeah, haha, good one, Sandeep. That's about the Pakistani thing and all that. Okay, fine. We have done with this today. I think it was a great talk by General Harimohan. Completely different, forward-looking, and we'll continue this because I believe in thinking ahead. The day the Sindoor finished, I started my own track of starting to look ahead. In the same thing, tomorrow morning, I'm going to talk of how Pakistan thinks about this whole story. You see, so far we've been talking of what we think. What does Pakistan think? How does he view? And how he views and how he perceives himself is what he's going to project himself in times to come. And that's the problem we have to handle. It might be obnoxious. His thinking might be
His thinking
completely
might be
obnoxious.
completely up.
But you need to understand what it is, right? With that, I'll say thank you
Thank
and
you, sir.
uh, and thanks a lot, Hari. Good night. Have a great day. We'll get together tomorrow morning and we'll talk of Pakistan. Bye
Sure.
and Jai Hind to all of you.
Thanks.